Dear guests, welcome back to the channel. For the aircraft to get airborne, it needs to get off the ground. For this, the plane needs to generate enough lift to unstick from the runway. The speed that we call is VMU, or minimum velocity unstick speed. In simple terms, it is the absolute minimum speed that the aircraft needs to take off. Let's go back to the basics. Lift is generated by the speed of the airflow around the wing. It also depends on the angle between the airflow and the wing, and this angle is called angle of attack. So, when the wheel is on the ground, the angle of attack is limited. Depending on the length of the aircraft, the maximum angle of attack is when the tail touches the ground when the wheel is still on the runway. As the aircraft accelerates, the lift will increase when aircraft is rolling faster, and the angle of attack remains at the same value at this point. At a certain speed, the lift will become equal to the weight, and at this point the aircraft will leave the ground, so-called unstick with the ground. So this speed is called the VMU. So what Airbus needs to do is to find out the VMU speed for all configurations, because the takeoff speeds must have a margin of safety. Just like when you invest in stocks, you must at least have a margin of safety. The VMU test that is being carried out is also to optimize the best aerodynamic configuration, best flap setting in order to reduce the takeoff distances.
We're here because you're looking for the best of the best of the best, sir!
Let us look at how tests are being carried out. A tail bumper is fitted at the bottom of the aircraft tail. We need this bumper because during the test, the tail bumper will be scraping the runway. This is a rather tricky test because there is a high chance that the tail of the aircraft being damaged. The damage can be caused by the tail bumper itself touching down or the impact behind the bumper just after liftoff. During the test, all flight protection systems are removed, and pilots perform the test in direct law. They want to control the flight controls directly. Just like when you have a misunderstanding with a friend, it is best to talk to that person face to face. There will be 3 people at the controls. One pilot will be seated at a low position. He will not look outside and will only look at the pitch attitude on his PFD. At 100 knots, he will pull on the stick so that the tail bumper will touch smoothly on the runway. He will then maintain that attitude. Then at liftoff, he will maintain that attitude or higher, as regulation states that the pitch should not be below the value at liftoff. This is quite tricky because the attitude also cannot be too high, as the tail might scrape the runway. The margin for error is very small. It can be as small as 1.5 degrees. Hence, very accurate flying is required. The other pilot will put his seat at a high position so that he can look outside and see when the aircraft is in a high pitch attitude. He will control the paddles to maintain directional control, and when airborne, he also makes sure the bank angle is 0. He takes control at the end of the test. They do the test with different thrust variations, and sometimes due to ground effect, the aircraft is unable to climb out of the runway, and therefore this pilot will perform a go-around. A flight engineer will sit in the middle to take care of the thrust levers and will monitor the engines and the systems. Behind in the cabin, there will be several people to monitor the test that is going on and will make sure it complies with regulations. And with aircrafts like the A400 Mike and the Airbus A318, the aircraft itself is low, and thus the tail bumper will not be required to scrape the runway. It is to minimize damage to the aircraft. The takeoff speeds for this type of aircraft is low and is considered as the VMU. So question, how many tests is required for VMU testing? Well, it is about 20 to 30 tests with different flap settings, thrust and weights. Also, changing the aircraft length will require brand new tests as well.